Hey yo, what's up? It's YT Wake 'em Up, back with another video. This one is about Gen Z not wanting to work anymore. This is a topic I've seen all over the internet for a while now, maybe a few months. I just want to get Gen Z's take on it. What do they think about what the boomers and all of these other generations are saying about them? I want to see how they feel, right? You know how we do, we talk about what's going on in the economy. Feel free to drop a comment at any time. I comment back. Let's have a conversation. Make sure you thumbs up this video so the algorithm can push it. Smash the subscribe button so you can see more of these videos pop up on your timeline. Let's go.
Gen Z doesn't want to work anymore. That doesn't mean they're not working. They are working. They're working 40 hours a week, and they still can't afford to live on their own. This is the difference between poverty in capitalism and poverty before. Poverty before, it was like, I'm in poverty because I'm like unable to work or I'm sickly or something. Poverty in capitalism is you are in poverty because you are working. You are in poverty while you are fully working. They can't afford food and rent and healthcare. These aren't luxuries, these are basic necessities. And hell, who wants to work all the time to not be able to afford things?
Who want to work all the time to not be able to afford things? And he had a key point right there. He said poverty used to be like basically like, you were living in the projects. You feel what I'm saying? Like you were in low income housing. You just didn't make a lot of money. That used to be poverty. Now poverty is the new middle class. Middle class is the new poverty now. People cannot survive and they're making good money. It's not that they're not making good money. The wages are good. It's just that the cost of living outweighs the wages. So people can't survive. They're still paycheck to paycheck at $100,000 a year, $150,000 sometimes. People are still saying they're living paycheck to paycheck, making that type of income. It's crazy how much everything has changed within the last 4 years. We got to get these words new definitions now. Poverty is now the new working class. A job is just over broke. I learned that from my millionaire homie. A job stands for just over broke. And at this point, it really means that for real.
To barely be able to afford to live. Why do y'all hate workers so much? You are one. I hate to be the one to tell you, but you're not going to get rich. Only 1 in every 1,000 of you is going to get rich. Maybe less. You're not going to Bezos out. I'm sorry. And so all the work you're doing, you're riding for your boss. You're riding for the rich person you're never going to be. And you're stopping workers like yourself from getting a better cut.
True, very true. I mean, most people are not going to get rich in their life. Let's just keep it real. Working a job, you can't get rich. You can barely sustain yourself. He who controls your finances controls your life. So a lot of people's lives are controlled by the workforce, unfortunately, due to the fact that they can never escape it. So they're always trapped in that rat race. It's just a repeated cycle. Everybody better start to live off grid. I'm trying to tell y'all, y'all better live off grid, plant a garden. This is what you do. Get you some land, build you a homestead, plant you a garden, get rainwater recycling system set up. You good to go. There's a few details I probably missed, but everybody gonna have to start living off grid, man. All right, let's get into this next video. Why Gen Z and millennials do not want to work anymore. Let's see what she has to say about this.
I don't want to work anymore. And now everyone who's not going to watch the full video can go comment about how lazy I am, how lazy my generation is, and how we just don't want to work anymore. And now for those that are still here, I will explain what we mean by that. I do want to work. If I didn't work, I think I would honestly probably get so bored that I would just want to off myself. Like most of us want to work. It helps give you purpose. It helps give you something to do. Hopefully you do something you're passionate about. Luckily for me, I do something I'm passionate about. So I genuinely like my job. But the problem is the purpose of a job is supposed to pay for you to be able to afford to live. And that's just not the case anymore. People in my generation who went to college, who did everything they were supposed to do, worked hard in school, went to a good college, graduated with their degree, yada yada, got their first job, and they can't afford to live. And we're working 40 to 60 hours a week, like on average, and we cannot afford to live. Like we just do not make enough to pay rent, to pay for food. Everything is so expensive right now, and wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. So we are working full time, giving up a huge portion of our lives to work, and we can't even afford to live.
Key points. I mean, that's why I didn't go to college. I mean, I always knew I wasn't, because that's just not what I wanted to do. So I felt like, the little test that you take to see if you'll be able to get accepted into college, I basically just failed it. I just circled random answers. And that was after the counselor at the school was like, yeah, I'm still paying off my student loans. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going. And at the same time, it's like, if you go to school for business, This the dumbest thing you can do is go to school for business because the professor has no business. The only business that he has is selling you the curriculum, getting you to enroll. So how can you learn business from somebody that never been out in the field? And most of the stuff that we learned at school, you don't use in your everyday life. So it doesn't make sense. It really don't. And on top of that, let me just say this. Let's just put some facts and logic here. It's like 56% of people that went to college regret it. And they never get a job in the field that they went to college for. Why go? Especially these days. It's crazy. People still going these days. Knowing that all of this is going on, you can't even get a job.
That is why my generation is frustrated. That is why we don't want to work anymore. Because we work really hard and we still can't afford to even get by. So, like, what's the point? We can't afford to save. We can't afford to buy things we want. We can't afford to go out and do fun things. We can barely afford to pay our rent and buy food. A lot of us have like 2 or 3 jobs or like work a full-time job and have several side hustles. That is the case for me. And then older generations just look at us and they're like, you're not working hard enough. This is your fault. Like, you're not working hard enough. That's why you can't get. The reason we can't get by is because the cost of living since the 90s has gone up 67%, while the wages have only gone up 18%. So wages have not kept up with the cost of living. That is why we can't afford to live. Not because we're lazy, not because we don't work, not because we don't want to work anymore. That is why. That is all. We're also in extreme debt because everything is so much more expensive than it used to be. College is way more expensive than it used to be. Cars are way more expensive than they used to be. Housing, way more expensive than it used to be. And on top of all that, politicians and older generations are destroying our environment, not doing anything to protect it, so we don't even know that there'll be a habitable Earth when we're older to live in. So yeah, that makes us pretty pessimistic and nihilistic and not want to work.
She set the record straight. I agree with her 100% on everything she said. She dropped some facts on everybody. For real, we don't even know if the world gonna be around for real. Like, they trying to make it a dystopian world. You'll own nothing, be happy. UBI is coming, which is universal basic income. This was a setup for destruction, to be honest. The people at the top that used middle class to get ahead, honestly, like through the banking system, through college, through the 401k system. All of these systems are failing for real. Let's keep it real. All of these systems are failing. They're on the verge of collapse. The government is on the verge of collapse every couple of months. We're seeing that, oh, the government might crash. They might run out of money. Let's see what the dude with the afro talking about.
I think a lot of people in the older generations look at Gen Z and Millennials and say, oh, they're lazy, they're entitled, they don't want to work, they're rebellious, right? And I don't think they realize that a lot of us grew up watching them struggle and not really be happy with their life. So a lot of us subconsciously reject the whole idea of the American dream because we know it's some bullshit. If I talk to the average 19 or 20-year-old and ask them what they want to do career-wise, most of them will probably say rapper, artist, influencer, streamer, model, maybe even something related to tech. But most of these careers didn't exist 30 years ago. So if you tell your parents that, who are probably Gen X or boomers, they will probably discourage you and tell you to do something more traditional or safe based on their experience in the world. So there's a generation gap in terms of perception. See, the older generation bought into the idea of working for 20 to 30 years because there really wasn't too many options. They had to do what they had to do. But most millennials and Gen Z are just not interested in that. A lot of Gen Z would rather make less money per year doing art or social media or whatever their passion is instead of doing something that they don't like and making twice the money. And I think as time progresses and AI and automation advances, it will make working even less appealing in the creator economy.
He said, and the creator economy will grow. It kind of cut off. But yeah, I mean, 30 years is 30 years. I always looked at it like this. Say somebody go to jail. Damn, they got 30 years. Man, that's a long time. That's what people will say. But then, on the other hand, all you got to do is put your 30 years in and you can retire. Wake up call. Our generation won't be able to retire. I agree. I'd rather make less and enjoy what I do than make more and be stressed and depressed. There's plenty of billionaires that off themselves. I wouldn't want to be one of them. I wouldn't. And yeah, I grew up seeing my people not happy with the work that they did, struggling. And it was like, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to follow that same path? So they telling me, yeah, all you got to do is put your 30 years in. But it's like, y'all not even ahead for real. So why would I do that? So I've always been doing side hustles since I was 7 years old. I've always had side hustles in different ways to make money for myself that made more than people were making per hour, just because it made more sense to me. Less work, more pay, more happiness, more fulfillment in life, more time for yourself. Time is the most important attribute ever. That's why when you go to jail, they say you're doing time. That's why when you go to work, they say you're putting your time in. They want to take our time away from us because they know that's the only thing that we cannot get back, period. And that's a bar right there I just dropped on y'all. Let's go. Let's move along. Let's move along. Gen Z girl has a breakdown over having to work 40 hours a week. This should be a good one. Let's play it.
Why is it that I have to work 40 hours a week just so I can have a place to live? 40 hours a week makes me $2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660. So I work 40 hours a week so I can have a 2-bedroom apartment. I don't know what to do. I'm not made for this.
Why you got a 2-bedroom apartment though? You should have got the 1 bed or the studio if that's all you make. I'm just saying. Don't live beyond your means. That's living beyond her means. Let's keep it real. 1,600, what'd you say, 1,660? And she only make 2 bands? Why would you do that to yourself?
You know, a lot of people are making fun of this girl, but, you know, all of the points I want to make about this video are completely negated by the fact that she can't see the simple fact that she needs to get a roommate. $1,600+ a month for rent for one person in a 2-bedroom is absurd. Get a roommate, figure it out.
I mean, yeah, we basically on the same page. She need a roommate, live in a studio, do something else. That was just a stupid decision. I'm not gonna lie. But working 40 hours a week for 2 bands, I feel her pain though. I do feel her pain.
I saw this headline on TikTok. Unemployed Gen Zers are having to turn down work because they can't afford the commute and the uniform report shows. And it reminded me of one of the first ever things to radicalize me. I have this vivid memory of being 15 and sitting in my best friend's house when she had just turned 16 and she got her first job. She worked at an Arby's. And I remember her and my mom talking about like having to buy the uniform. She had to buy shoes and pants and a certain belt to work this job. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. They want you to wear something specific, but you have to pay for it. The theme that has followed me from job to job my entire life. One of my first jobs was I worked at a grocery store and I packed the online orders in the back of the shop in this like garage warehouse that led outside, and I worked there during a Minnesota winter, so it was fucking cold. I wasn't allowed to bring in my own sweatshirt. I had to buy a $30 one from the company, a sweatshirt that no one was gonna see because I was in the back. I never ended up buying this because I was so pissed at the idea like no one can see me. It is winter in Minnesota and you want me to buy a $30 sweatshirt? This is back when minimum wage was still $7.25. I was making $7.25 at this job and they wanted me to buy a $30 sweatshirt. And most recently for the job I currently have, they provide most of our uniform for us, but we're required to buy our own shoes. I spent $70 on specific shoes, and that was with a discount that this specific shoe brand linked up with my place of work. It just makes me so angry that jobs require uniforms and then they make employees front the money. And that's not even with like specific uniforms. Like my brother, when he worked at a talent agency, like could not afford to buy nice office clothes, so my parents had to help him. I had a friend who also had to do something similar, like go into an office, and they were like, had my dad not helped me buy my clothes, I would not have been able to afford nice clothes to go to work. It's such a fucking scam that you are required to pay to get to work, to get home from work, to buy the clothes you have to wear at work, to buy the food you have to eat while at work. You might think the last one's extreme, but I think unpaid lunches, like clocking out for lunch and not paying your employees, like not giving them food or paying for them to eat, is fucking insane. I make all this money and then I have to reinvest it into this job. The employer should take care of their employee. Like maybe, I don't even think that sounds insane. The fact that We live in a country where jobs can get away with that. I mean, should I be surprised? We live in a country where the government is allowed to keep people on the streets. I could talk about this all day, but paying for a uniform at work was one of like the first things for me to be like, oh, capitalism is actually really fucking bad, dude.
Yeah, that made no sense. She got to work like 5 hours just to be able to afford the uniform back when she was making $7.25. You get what I'm saying? On top of that, I thought that though. I had that thought cross my mind. I said it don't make sense. If you already need money, why do you have to spend money to get more money? I mean, I know it take money to make money, but it's like you already don't got no money, so that's why you're looking for a job. But they want you to spend out money before you can actually make any money. That just goes to show, like, when people be like, oh, well, I don't feel bad for nobody homeless. They should just get a job. It's like, for one, these days, you got to have a computer or some type of connection to the internet, go to a library, whatever the case may be, to fill out an application. You can't just walk in and fill out one no more. Everything is digital. On top of that, you got to have a uniform. If you're homeless, you don't got none of that. So you're going to stay homeless. And really, people panhandle make better money than people that work sometimes. So, I mean, I just had to say that. But yeah, that's crazy. That never made sense to me, that you got to spend out money before you can actually make the money. I don't know. And I didn't know so many people couldn't get a job due to the fact they couldn't afford the uniforms, the shoes, none of that. That's wild. Gen Z is cooked. Let's see what he's talking about. Look like this one gonna be good.
Bro, can we talk about how in today's economy, if you're not out trying to be a content creator, an entrepreneur, or like an influencer of any type, financially you're cooked. Everything is way too expensive. Now, I'm not stupid. I know there are high-paying jobs out there. I'm talking about the careers you can get that don't require 35 years of med school or taking hundreds of exams that the only people that can pass are like people that are like Sheldon Cooper. The way the economy is moving now, most career jobs that require a bachelor's or master's degree, you know, the ones that got you in like $100,000, $200,000 in debt, those careers are going to have you living comfortably broke, if even that. Now, like I said, doctors, lawyers, all them, y'all are going to be eating with gold spoons, which you all should, because personally, I'm not smart enough for all that. But that just re-emphasizes my point. Unless you're in sales, real estate, content creation, you start your own business, something entrepreneurial, OnlyFans, doesn't matter. There is a high chance that we're all going to college, getting in massive amounts of debt, just to hopefully be comfortably broke. Moral of the story, y'all need to get remote jobs and move out of the country so that maybe you've got a chance to live in the American dream.
Comfortably broke. Yep, that's it. And even doctors are on the verge of not having a job too, due to AI. Y'all seen those AI doctors? Have y'all seen the AI lawyer that represented somebody in court? Like, it's getting crazy out here. We living through like a science fiction movie right now. It's bad. But people are starting to wake up. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about these things, so it's like everybody is aware what's going on now, and they're fed up. It's really good to see, honestly. Like, it's peaceful to see this. At one point, I was the only person talking about this, it felt like, and I was just the biggest conspiracy theorist. You know, that's what it felt like, and that's what people would say. Oh, that's a conspiracy. Well, everything is a conspiracy until it comes true, as you've seen. But, yeah, it's getting crazy out here, man. I advise that too. I advocate for that too. Get you a remote job or some type of online business and move out the country. The new American dream is actually getting out of America for real. That's the new American dream, is not being in America, living outside of America, where the cost of living is way lower. You can get a bang for your buck. All right. Now let's see what this dude is talking about. Why millennials and Gen Z are depressed. Yeah, you can see it on everybody's face. Everybody depressed out here, man. It's like everybody having a midlife crisis, but they're not midway through their life.
You want to know why it seems like millennials and Gen Z are just the most depressed generations ever? It's because we are. But there's a real reason for that. Millennials and Gen Z are honestly the first two generations to see the bullshit for what it was. And not only that, we're the first two generations to actually speak out against the bullshit. Like me, for example. I'm a millennial. I'm a younger millennial. I was born in 1991, which essentially is just 6 years before Gen Z. We were the generation that were told by our Gen X and Boomer parents that if you go to college, get a degree, you graduate, you get a good job, that's all you gotta do, right? So we said, all right, cool. We went to college. We got our degrees and we started to graduate in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And those degrees didn't mean a damn thing. As a result, we looked at our Boomer and Gen X parents like, why the fuck did you lie to us like that? It's not their fault. They technically didn't lie to us because the reality of when they were growing up Yes, degrees actually matter. In fact, a lot of our parents got turned down for jobs because they didn't have degrees. They just didn't know that the world would change right as they were telling us that. Bro, we are really the transitional guinea pig generation. Like when I was born, VHS and cassette tapes were popular. But when I graduated college, we had already started to transition into fully digital media libraries. Literally everything ended and began with my generation. Millennials grew up with so many promises that we all thought we were going to be straight if we just followed the formula. That was never the case, bro. So now, here we are in our early 30s, mid 30s, late, some of us even in our early 40s now, still on own homes, still in apartments, still kind of just winging it in life. And it's even crazier is the fact that the government still sees millennials as children, not realizing that the oldest millennial is in their fucking 40s, bro. We're depressed because we're in a stagnant state. You know what I'm saying? We have not been able to grow. Most millennials' lives honestly have not changed over the last 10 years. You might make a little more money than you did back in 2014, but your living circumstances and all that kind of shit, most likely, it ain't really changed much.
Or your living circumstances got worse. I know a lot of people that lived in the suburbs had to downgrade to the hood. The hood. For real though. It ain't funny, but like that's the reality. A lot of people had to downgrade in life. Instead of progressing, they're downgrading. They moving back. And speaking of moving back, a lot of people moving back in with their parents as well. So it's like, yeah, there's not a lot of progress that's going on. It's not. The boomers lived through the golden ages, essentially. But they just didn't see it. Let them finish.
You live in an apartment, you either got the credit score for a house, but you don't got the income, or you got the income, but you don't got the credit. And then with the interest rates being so crazy, it's honestly cheaper to rent a house than it is to buy one. Not to mention that millennials and Gen Z are the generations that just been bombarded with information for our entire lives. Like, yes, awareness is good, but listen, man, too much of anything is a bad thing. And too much awareness definitely takes a toll on your mental health, man. Like everyday war, genocide, famine, gas prices, interest rates, job market. We know too much. Is overwhelming. Everything's expensive now. When I was in college, I used to go to McDonald's and get a McDouble, a McChicken, a large fry, and a sweet tea for $5.35. I put that same meal in my McDonald's app cart the other day. That motherfucker was $12. And our parents had the audacity to ask us, did we have McDonald's money back in the day? Motherfucker, you mean $4? So yeah, man, if it seems like millennials and Gen Z are just the most depressed and cynical ass generations, it's because we are. For a lot of valid ass reasons. None of us know what the hell going on. We just out here winging it, man.
True. Everybody just winging it. That's why people done tapped out, man. They tapped out from reality. And yeah, we are getting like information overload too. It's so much new information coming out every single day. Like you said, war, famine. Is this really life? This seems like we living through some crazy movie that just hasn't ended yet. It's like no ending to the movie. Just a continuation forever. This don't seem like life. It's like we in a simulation for real. Like, I heard people say that. Are we in a simulation? It's like we really living through a simulation. This is the real Matrix. It is. And it's only gonna get worse. So all I can say is enjoy your life the best you can and keep on winging it. That's all we can do. Alrighty. This is the last video. Worker cries about being so tired after working 40 hours a week and only making $2,000 a month. So this is another one.
A Gen Z worker made a video where she was crying about how exhausting it is to work a 40-hour work week and only be paid $2,000 a month. She's since deleted the video, but not before others could stitch and duet the video talking about how she's simply exhausted and barely able to get by. Not only does this woman feel trapped in a toxic cycle of working just to pay the bills, but she's also losing her identity and sacrificing her well-being in the process. Gen Zers were urged to go to college, build career goals, and save money. But even after doing all of that, we're still struggling. Some people still ridiculed this woman, arguing that everybody's struggling and it's just part of being an adult. But at what point should everybody step back and consider that this isn't normal? Instead of trying so hard to normalize it for other younger workers, stagnant wages are a universal problem affecting professionals at all stages of their careers. And living paycheck to paycheck is the norm when it shouldn't be. Many younger workers are frustrated that they will never be able to purchase a car or a home or have children in a financially stable position. They're also frustrated with toxic 40-hour-a-week work culture. They're overworked, undercompensated, and desperate. A 2024 Wallet Hub survey found that 25% of Gen Zers are struggling to maintain financial stability and lack basic saving and investing knowledge. And it's not just overwhelming student loans, low-paying entry-level jobs, and a staggeringly disappointing job market, but it's also rising rent costs. Average rent costs were $850 in the early 2000s, but now single postgraduate Gen Z workers pay an estimated $1,800 for the same one-bedroom spaces. So no, Gen Z workers aren't lazy. They simply don't make enough money to survive while also dealing with people who are telling them that it's their fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. That's honestly not the truth at all, man. Not the same. Not the same economy that y'all lived in. They just got to realize that we're not going to get to retire. A lot of Gen Zs are not going to get to own homes. I really understand why people are just spending their last money on life experiences. At this point, that's really all that's important for real. You're going to die broke anyway. When you're on your deathbed, you might as well have 1,000 experiences to talk about.